Hello everyone, this is Sudeep from CoinGabbar reporting from the Crypto Polo Club. Once again, I want to tell you that the vibe is absolutely fantastic here. Things are going ahead, people are buzzing, and you can say the game of the riches, Polo, is already on. And there are other things that the business that we have to attend to. Join with me is Stuart from SpaceCoin. Hi Stuart. Get me too. Yeah. So Stuart is going to tell us about what SpaceCoin actually is. Stuart is working with SpaceCoin, and SpaceCoin is trying to solve the biggest problem that we can say exists today, that is providing internet to people through satellite, which are not having access to it already. And being from India, being from the Indian subcontinent, I can understand that there's a lot that can be done if the internet is available and properly available at places. So how is SpaceCoin taking this thing? How is SpaceCoin solving this con?
So the problem has been a long-standing problem. There's this issue of, let's say in India's example, or in emerging markets, you have this issue of connecting the unconnected. I think India has 600 million people who are currently offline or are underconnected, meaning they have to travel to their nearest village or town to get internet access. And what that ends up contributing to is you get this digital divide between those who have internet and those who have not. And access to internet brings with a lot of benefits, economic benefits, health benefits, education, and so on and so forth. So that's sort of setting the context for the problem we're trying to solve. And the reason this needs to be solved by satellite technology is because the cost of laying fiber optic cable and then putting up the cell tower is far too expensive if you're not targeting highly populated, densely populated urban areas. So as soon as you start to head towards smaller villages or remote communities, there's just no ROIs, no payback there for the operators. Whereas on the satellite side of things, because of the way that the satellites travel across, you can access anyone anywhere, no matter how remote they are. And so that's the area that we're going after. So we are developing the protocol layer to create a decentralized satellite communication networks to bring internet connectivity to individuals who are underserved. And the reason that we want to create a decentralized network, so that has several benefits. But for the end user, we have this idea of permissionless connectivity. So we believe that access to the internet is a human right, so everyone should have access to the internet. And blockchain, a decentralized network, allows you to offer that. And then at the state level, it's much more around sovereignty. So national sovereignty of your data as a nation state, controlling where that data goes. And so we've seen what's happened with, for example, in Ukraine, the alleged conflict with Starlink, where Starlink have threatened to turn off the Ukrainians to India on the battlefield. And that was a huge wake-up call for everybody in the global community who didn't have their own constellation. But the challenge comes with that if you look at the geopolitical landscape, you have the US has Starlink, Amazon's coming soon, the EU's creating a consortium of satellite, and China has, let's say, 2 or 3 satellite constellations they're launching as well. The rest of the world largely won't have their own constellation. A country like India has the buying power, the population, they could build their own constellation. But the vast majority of countries do not. And so they're very, very afraid now that if they sign up with Starlink as an example, all of a sudden their critical communication could be shut down. It could be they don't have any control over their data flows as their sovereign data. And that's something, again, a decentralized constellation is able to solve. So we're solving challenges at the national level and also at the population level of that.
Great. One more thing that goes ahead with it is that free internet, if it is shut down for some time, that has proven to be very effective in terms of stopping the riot. Because, there's a sentiment that is built all of a sudden. We have seen one building up. I mean, there's been a terrorist attack in India. Since I belong to India, I know that. And there was a sentiment all of a sudden. People started reacting to it and things. In order to stop all that, if we talk about stopping the satellite and stopping the information from being flown so freely, it has turned out to be a very effective medium for that. But if it is not that, the government is having problems, and that is where the problem of regulations come into capture. So how will you deal with the regulatory aspects of things when it is coming to free internet or something?
Yeah, so there is a very well-defined regulatory framework when it comes to satellite communications and when it comes to broadcasting in the country. So if your satellite wishes to transmit into, let's say, India as a country, then you have to get permission from the Indian government, you have to get access to spectrum, and you have to comply with the regulatory framework and the laws in place. So that's going to be the same for us. So in the short term, you have to pick and choose your battles, right? So we want to work with jurisdictions, we want to work with government, we want to get our service out there. over time, by the very nature of being a decentralized protocol, it will start to take on a life of its own. As more and more individuals, countries, telecoms companies, high net worths put satellites into orbit, it starts to take on its own life. And at that point, controlling something like that becomes more trickle. It's like putting the genie back in the bottle. You can say the same with Bitcoin. It was regulatory, a gray area or banned in a lot of
It was a regulated nightmare earlier.
Exactly. But now it's out there.
Yeah.
It becomes sort of a de facto standard that this is now existing, and its countries are now sort of starting to react and adopt to work with it rather than to fight it, because they realize it's a losing game.
Right.
And we anticipate the same. We'll have a similar journey and path to go for. So we have to work with the system first, get to a point where there is a single point of failure. The protocol takes on its own community, its own life. And at that stage, we believe that countries will want to then, rather than fight against it, they'll discuss, okay, how can we work with this? How can we work within and make the system better for everyone?
How does the blockchain, or you can say the digital footprint, come into picture when we talk about the regulatory perspective and talk about SpaceCoin? The most important thing with blockchain is the digital footprint. So if the digital footprint is there, the regulations become very easy, right? So how far are you going ahead with what we talk about, the digital footprint of things?
Yeah, so the SpaceCoin itself is there for, let's say, three main things. It's there to authorize who can access the network, who can contribute resources to the network. It's there to authenticate them when someone joins, and it's there for the accounting purposes, so you can track who has contributed how much bandwidth to the network, who has used how much data from the network, and that will all be on the public ledger. So we've spoken to a number of government over the last few months, and you hear very interesting stories. So there's, for example, a government who I won't name has said they have a giant telecoms company in their country, but they have no idea how much real revenue this company makes. And the amount they proclaim to the government, they believe is underreporting by 70, 80%.
Yes.
But there's no way for them to really verify that without going in and raiding the offices and so on and so forth. Whereas some of the SpaceCoin, all of that data is stored on the blockchain. Where it also becomes helpful for governments is in terms of traceability of data. So if you are a nation state,
who's accessing what?
Exactly. And where is your data going? So India could say, right, we want to make sure that any data coming from India stays within India. And the blockchain allows you to record where that data has gone, to which ground station, to which terminals, which users. And so you can make sure that all the data, you have this sort of data sovereignty in India. And if you see that then that data starts to get downlinked to Pakistan, that might be something that the Indian government doesn't want. And that's all going to be transparent and traceable. Whereas if you use Starlink at the moment, once your data gets to Starlink, you have no idea where data flows. And so you don't have any control of it. So there's also a big data sovereignty play around having an open, auditable ledger and a blockchain that people can look at.
That's fair. So if we talk about blockchain in total, how good are things going to be when you can say all the data is on blockchain? Or let us forget that. Let me come to a more important point. How does a crypto ecosystem, a SpaceCoin, the coin, come into picture here? And what is the use case here?
Yeah. So SpaceCoin is going to be, you can think of it like it's going to be a DApp built upon a layer one called CreditCoin. And CreditCoin is a project which was delivering financial services to individuals who are unbanked and underbanked. And SpaceCoin grew out of the CreditCoin project to help deliver connectivity to people who are unconnected. So that's the tie-in between those two ecosystems. But the coin itself is really to make sure that the participants in the network are good actors. So if you launch a satellite, you may have to stake to the SpaceCoin. The SpaceCoin will be used to as I mentioned, authenticate, and for accounting purposes. You as an end user, let's say me as an individual living in a certain country, I don't necessarily have to know about SpaceCoin. For me, that can all be abstracted away. Either I can pay with fiat and the SpaceCoin happens behind the scenes, or I will still buy my internet through a telecoms company. A SpaceCoin is then an infrastructure provider to the telco, and all of that abstracted away. So we don't want to be a project which has complexity for
a crypto project. You want to be a service project.
Exactly. We are a service project. The crypto elements serve a real purpose and a real benefit on the back end.
Right.
So as a user, you don't have to know crypto, you don't have to have heard of crypto, you don't have to interact with it. You just know you're getting internet. And on the back end, the SpaceCoin does its thing to make sure that everything's accounted for, that all the authorizations are correct, authentication, accounting, all that stuff.
No, that's fair, because I have been visiting across the globe and seeing projects that are coming up with utilities and use cases. Most of them are basically, what they're trying to do is making the interface less crypto friendly and more Web2 friendly, while at the back of the things there's always blockchain operating and things are working, and that is where I can see SpaceCoin going. So it's fair to form an opinion that even if you're not a crypto user, you don't even know how to use a wallet, but still you can access the blockchain ecosystem and access all the powers that blockchain can harness. That is one thing good about SpaceCoin, I must say, but that's one thing. What's the future?
So the future is, so we have one satellite launch now. We're launching our next batch this year. And then we already have agreements in place to do demonstrations with telecoms companies, with governments and nation states. And off the back of that, we'll also have a TG coming up in coming weeks. So if you go to spacecoin.org, you can follow along for more information. But the aim is that by the end of this year, we'll be doing live demonstrations in multiple countries. And then from there, we will be building out the constellation step by step at that point onwards.
That's great. So guys, there's a lot to learn from this. There's a lot to understand from what SpaceCoin is. And there's a lot to see about the future that SpaceCoin is taking us into. So I must say, SpaceCoin might not directly be the future, but SpaceCoin is the one that might take us to the future in the times to come. And with that, I wish all the luck to Stuart and team from SpaceCoin. Let's hope that things go good. For those who are like active investors in the crypto ecosystem, the tokens are definitely out soon.
Coming soon, yeah. And Zoom listings are coming soon. We have them all lined up. Where we're waiting for our members to announce it. So you'll be one of the first to know. And we'd love to have anyone who's interested in the project, either Web3 crypto level or at a humanitarian level or government level. We'd love to have you follow along the journey. Please get involved. We really would like you to support, and we'd like to make SpaceCoin, we believe, will be the future. And we'd like to have you along for the ride.
So that's one thing. So those who are believer in futuristic technologies and blockchain combined together, SpaceCoin is going to be the one that you should watch out for. And as soon as it is listed, come out for pre-sale, you can do your own research definitely and can invest in SpaceCoin for the times to come, because it got a great future as I can see from here. With this, we come to the end of the session. Thank you so much, Stuart, for being here with us. This is Sudeep from CoinGabbar, and we'll hope to see you soon once again. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.